Today we have our first video in our receiver focus series for players. We're going to be talking to current and former CFL players about all topics they think that can help develop young receivers, including how to run their favorite route and different pieces of the game. Today we're going to focus on using your size as a receiver and talk to former UDM star and Toronto Argonauts tight end Regis Cibasu.
All right. Hi, guys. My name is Regis Cibasu. I'm from Montreal. I played my life in football. I played football in Montreal all my life. I'm a receiver. I started playing when I was like 10 years old. I started D-line, O-line, whatever, and then started to move tight end. Played defensive end also. As I was growing up, I started moving more of a slot back. I was getting a little bit taller and stuff. So as I grew up, I went to CJEP. I played slot back and went to University of Montreal. I played slot back there, but I was kind of a big type receiver. So that's how I started playing football, and I got the chance to play with the Toronto Argonauts right now. So last year was my first year, and I moved my position to a tight end position. So that's a little bit my little resume for you guys.
Yeah, it's awesome, and I appreciate you coming on and making the time. And we're going to kind of do a series of videos for different receivers in the CFL and kind of with guys with different skill sets. And I was excited when you got back to me because I know you're talking about moving to tight end. I remember your time at University of Montreal as one of the best big body receivers in Canadian football. So I think there's a lot of players that especially if you grow up as a bigger guy, you kind of don't really get good at using your size until you're older and everyone else gets bigger. What are kind of your tips for receivers for creating separation as a bigger receiver?
Yeah, you're totally right, man. We don't normally I had a lot of difficulties using my tap. I was trying to be like more fancy. Even my coaches in university was telling me like use your size, use your strength, and I was trying to be like more of a fancy guy, try to have a good footwork. But sometimes we need to use our body as an advantage. So I think it's more important to use our strength or a lot of chicken wings. Like when, most of the time DBs are like smaller than us. So it's really easy for us to like use the chicken wings, use our body, like a little bit of basketball, use our like a post up move, stuff like that. So I think it's important to just impose our body most of the time on DB so we can give ourselves more chances to get the ball and make plays.
And is there any, so if you're, like let's say you're running like any kind of in or out route as a bigger guy, do you have any, because I know obviously that can be harder, right? The little guys, they got less of themselves to change direction. Is there any kind of advice like at the top of your route, like you mentioned the chicken wing, like is there any advice kind of at the top of your route for maybe like maybe you're being covered by a DB that's quicker than you, but like what's your advice for getting separation?
What I remember what I used to do a lot in university is that I used to like, if let's say I have an inside route, inside dig, whatever, I used to like split my DB in half and try to get half of his body and lean into him and just make sure that I put my body and put more pressure on him so I can push off easily, but just with a little chicken wing and just get off and get more separation. So I always try to like split the DB in half and see like half of his body and attack this part of his body so I can have leverage on him when I break out.
Yeah, I think that's super important. And one of the things that I've seen in the really good receivers that I've been around is their ability to not kind of get head up and like get where they want to be at the top of their route. And I think with big guys, and I've coached some pretty good like big high school receivers. Sometimes you can, just because you're a bigger guy, you can get used to using that chicken wing and getting off without that. But then when you get to the higher levels, obviously like the CFL, there's a lot more, the guys you're playing against.
Yeah, you need that. Yeah.
Even in university, right? You need that level of specificity. So that's huge too. That kind of, brings me to my second point. You talked about it using your size and creating contact with smaller DBs. How do you decide when, okay, am I going to use my body and I'm going to try and run through or make more contact with the DB, or when do you try and kind of avoid contact while you're running your route?
Yeah, that's a good question too. Sometimes you don't always have to, like in football, we all know that we don't always have to be physical. Sometimes with a receiver, you can be finesse, and sometimes you have to avoid a DB. So most of the time when I try to avoid the DBs, it's like sometimes it's like a quick play, like a quick RPO or whatever. So I have to be fast to get open. So or sometimes even having a good release for the QB to have a good timing to see an open receiver. Sometimes those are timing are important, so the receiver has to be able to avoid the release or the press whatever, contact with the DB. So those are the time I try to like avoid contact, or just try to be in a good zone, stuff like that. But when I use the contact, it's mostly like long plays, and I know I have time to like position myself in the play. It's like a long development play, so I know I can like, use my contact or try to have different release, so I can chicken wing. I can just run up to the DB and step on his toes and be physical and all that. So it really depends on the situation. Sometimes it's a late game and you need like quick positions, and you need to be fast, so you don't want to lose your time trying to make contact. So you have to avoid the DB and all stuff. So it's really a kind of situation. It depends on situation and the play and the DB. Sometimes also, if you know you have a quick DB or a fast, and you just have to adjust like every play.
Yeah, I think that makes a big difference. And the timing thing you brought up, I think, is really important too. And that kind of, brings me to my last question. And one of the things I'm excited about doing this series is talking to guys about like what's their favorite route to run. And I know you have some film from your time at UDM too. So we'll get to that. We'll get to that as we go. But if what's your favorite route to run, and then what coaching points would you have for younger players, high school?
My favorite route since ever was the fade, because it's simple on a sheet of paper. You just run a straight line, but there's so much detail in that route. Starting right from the back, from the press, from the lineup, depending if the DB is off, if the DB is pressed. So there's a lot going on that fade. It's like a lot of you have to be an artist just right off the line of scrimmage. How you release, how you use your hands, where are your eyes, how you gonna stack the DB when you release, and when you just release, how do you have to like stack him and make sure you look at the ball, don't run with your hands all the way with the ends up in the air. You have to like push and dig and make sure you jump for the ball or just adjust to the ball well. So there's a lot of details in that route. It seems really simple, but it's really an art to run that route. And in college, that was one of my favorite routes. And every time I had to do it, I was kind of excited before the play. I look at my QB and I knew something was about to happen. So this is the play that I really, really loved. And even when I was slot back the seam, I really liked it also. It was kind of a little bit different because you have to, with the waggle, you have different ways to attack the DBs also. But yeah, with this route, you can be physical also. You have to like make sure you jump. Like it's like a rebound when the ball's in the air, So the guys who jumps the highest, who times the ball well, like it's a lot of stuff there's going on in this route. That's why I love it so much.
Yeah, and I know it's obviously super common in the Canadian game, and I think there's a lot of guys that when you see it on TV, you don't really see the complexity of, okay, I chose this release and I stacked on top, and I found the ball with my hands late, so the DB didn't have time to adjust. So if you've got some film of that or any of the other stuff we talked about, you could pull that up and we can just walk through it.
So basically, I'm on the slot back on the top of the screen. You see, I have a load defender on me, and I'm running a dig, and I know I'm way bigger than him, and I'm trying to. It's a kind of a quick play, so I want to be there fast. So what I'm taking is like try to be there fast. I know I can just be physical and blow him off, and just make a quick end, so I can create separation and make a play. So as you can see, you can run the play. I'm gonna just be physical, push him off, and then just make a quick end.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where, like we kind of talked about, sometimes you got to recognize like who's over top you and
Exactly.
and what advantage do you have in that situation.
Exactly. That's one of the play that I can be physical and just make a play. So you can. So this is a crucial play. We got to make a play, and then I see the DB's kind of off, and I know I'm running a fade. So it's gonna be it's gonna be a jump ball in the air. At the top of the right next to the end zone. So what I'm doing, I'm trying to attack the DB, trying to get out in his blind spot so I can make a play. And you're gonna see a little bit on the end of the top. We can see both of the guys fighting the hands, and I have to jump and make sure that he doesn't see when I'm jumping, and I'm sudden on the jump, so you can play it. So as you can see, we were fighting the hands. And you got to jump because the DB is not really watching the ball, so you have to jump and late minute and make a play.